Hey everyone, Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com, DevOps TV, and we're here at IBM Think, and I'm joined by a friend of mine, Lucas Welch. Lucas is with Skytap, where he's a senior director. But Lucas, that's your latest resume
True story.
thing, but you're an author,
I do my best.
You've written, you have
Done some speaking before.
a lot of speaking, you've run labs
Yep,
back
and-
in your day.
Yeah, I've gone through an interesting trajectory in enterprise tech, Alan.
Yes, it has. Well beyond, you look like a young guy here, but you've been through it.
It was not what I grew up wanting to do,
No.
but I can tell you it's fascinating to be in it now.
Absolutely. That's probably a good subject for a whole nother
Yeah.
video series. Is how many people in tech grew up thinking they were going to
They
be
wanted
what they
to
wanted to be?
firemen or women or policemen or
yeah.
women, and now they're in enterprise tech.
Hey, I went to law school. You never know. But anyway, you're here with Skytap, as I mentioned.
Yes.
And Skytap, for those of you not able to make Think 2018, Skytap's presence on that expo floor goes well beyond your little booth.
Yeah, it's become rather significant at this point in
It
time.
really is, because I noticed, because I went for a few demos.
Yep.
I asked people to show me what they got. And how many of them on their demos are clicking Skytap
Yeah.
hosted
Yeah, so we're actually
demo apps.
powering a number of the demos
Yeah.
on the show floor
I
through our
noticed it.
cloud service.
Yeah.
Indeed, yeah.
And that really kind of goes for those who may not be familiar with Skytap back home here. That's kind of what you guys do. You power many applications, especially a lot of stuff that's maybe legacy,
Yep.
right? And is being ported to cloud or is in the middle of a transitioning, right, between
Yeah, so
old to new.
I think what's really interesting about Skytap, and one of the things that I'm most excited about, and I'll try to take the vendor hat off. And
Okay.
Just speak
Yeah, no, speak.
speak as part of the whole ecosystem itself. Is there are so many organizations that have been very successful for 10, 15, 20 years without the cloud, right?
Yep.
But we in this kind of industry that we're in, the cloud is so exciting that we kind of feel like it's always been there. But there are many organizations, most of the largest in the world, in fact, that were built long before the cloud was even existed. And so they have technology that's done very well for them and has tons of value, from the data, from the way it runs their businesses, from the things it accomplishes for those organizations. But those systems were not designed for the cloud, right?
Yeah.
They were designed very specifically, in fact, for the infrastructure that they reside upon, the servers, the networking, the storage, etc. And what Skytap's developed is a way to really lower the barrier for that type of technology to move out of the data center and into the cloud much easier than it would be to go to a web scale platform. And from there, the business can start to make decisions about what business challenges they want to solve and what business needs they have for evolving those applications, versus just have to rewrite them or re-platform them over the course of a number of years just to get in the cloud in the first place.
Sure. I had this conversation on a few of the videos we did yesterday, Lucas, where, look, for the foreseeable future, and I mean, foreseeable in the tech world is limited, but
We'll call it 18 months.
right, well, no, but even let's say 5 to 7 years,
Yep.
10 years. I don't care. The cloud's been around a bit. It's not, 20 years old, but it's been around enough for us to know now, yeah, people are going to move to the cloud.
Yep.
Cloud migration.
It's
all
the
of
way
these
everybody's
things.
going, for sure.
But over the next 5 to 10 years, people aren't going to throw the babies, or very few organizations will throw babies out with the bathwater
Yep.
in a headlong rush to the cloud.
Yep.
Right? I know of one organization I've interviewed that did that, right? They would just start new stuff in the cloud,
Yep.
cloud native, and as that came on, they shut the lights here.
Yep.
I think that's crazy radical, right?
Yeah.
Most people have more of this hybrid mentality, if you want to call it. And, IBM is touting it here as cloud private, they call it.
Yeah.
But really, it's kind of right in Skybox's sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
This cloud migration, hybrid, where, look, we're going to offer you a path.
Yeah, and I think we were talking before the interview started about criticism of organizations, and especially with large companies like IBM, it's easy to poke holes at them. They're so
Sure.
big, they're so massive, they're doing so many different things that they're not going to do everything right. But I think being here at Think, number one, I think they're throwing a great event.
Yeah.
Second, I think what's been really interesting with IBM is they do have so much depth in terms of the relationships and the expertise with large enterprise organizations. And the problems for those organizations are a lot different than a Facebook or a Netflix or a company that is what we would call cloud native. And I think they really are starting to come together with a cohesive message that's saying, hey, let us take you on a progressive path forward, that you're going to get incremental benefits along the way. It's not going to be necessarily as cool as a revolution might be, but it's actually going to be much more realistic and achievable for your business. And Skytap fits well within IBM's ecosystem in that regard.
I agree with you. And you know, one thing I learned from friends of mine, you know, I've started a bunch of venture-backed companies over the years, is that most startups, most change is evolutionary, not revolutionary.
Completely agree.
You could probably point to 2 or 3 things that are truly revolutionary. Everything builds on it's evolutionary, and I think that's really the key here. The other thing specific to the IBM experience is, look, they've owned the mainframe market.
Yeah, and it's still growing. I think it grew in the last quarterly result. There's billions of dollars in that market still.
Billions
we thought
and billions,
mainframes
as
would
Carl
be gone,
Sagan would
and
say.
they're still very much
not
part
only
of business today.
Not only are they not gone, they're growing, and they're not going anywhere.
No.
So I think part of this strategy that you're talking about is not only how do I migrate to the cloud, but being smart about what should I migrate to the cloud, and frankly, what shouldn't I?
Yeah, I mean, they're really, you know, another thing we talked about off camera, which I think is great for this, is you have to start with what your business need is and understand what you're trying to achieve. It's very easy to look at things like microservices or Kubernetes, a really good approach to breaking down applications, and really cool technology, respectively. But both of those things are relatively new. By and large, unproven in really production, large enterprise at scale environments. And they may very well be a good solution, but you need to understand why you would use a given technology or a given process and how that applies to your business.
Well, you have to understand what the advantage of it is. Right? I mean, there's that old joke, you know, why do dogs do what they do? Because they can.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with technology. We don't do technology because we can.
Yeah.
We do technology because there's a real reason to do it. And I think that is probably one of the hardest things. If you're a CIO or, you know, management, VP, director level, large organization, and you hear about Kubernetes, and you're hearing about cloud, and you're hearing about all of these great technologies, DevOps as well. Yeah. You know, and you're like, man, I want to jump on that bandwagon, right? Because we live in this bubble where you want the latest, greatest. Sometimes it really does pay to step back and say, whoa.
Yes.
Right? I don't necessarily need that for my business right now.
Yeah.
I could look at it. I may want to put it in R&D.
Yeah.
But I don't need it right now.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that, you know, you chase what's cool, you chase what's new, and especially us kind of living the technology lifestyle, if you will. We get accustomed to it, and so we feel things that are really by and large unknown or very brand new to the majority seem like old hat to us.
Right.
But I think there's mostly organizations are just beginning to understand how to bring the collaboration between developers and operations and security and finance and do that effectively.
And they're doing it in little pockets. They're not doing it across the board.
Exactly. And they're just starting to say, okay, well, we've developed a couple applications in the cloud natively, and now we look at those capabilities and, hey, I don't want to start over with my e-commerce app. I don't want to start over with ERP, but it would be great if I could bring in this service or that capability.
I could integrate
and they want to extend the value versus start from scratch. And that's really where Skytap's value prop comes in, is giving them that path forward that's iterative, that you get continuous benefits from, but you don't have to, as you said, throw the baby out with the bathwater just to start making progress.
So Lucas, I'm familiar with Skytap, obviously, having spoken to you over the last year and with the Skytap folks before. I guess one of the questions I've had with Skytap, though, is, okay, so Skytap represents that path, that hybrid cloud migration path. But where does it go from being just a way station along the way to the permanent home, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You know, I don't think you could view Skytap as just a way station.
Yep, that's a very fair question. So I think there's to try to both answer it simply and then give a little context. I think simply is you get into Skytap much more much easier through the way that we can clone a traditional applications environment, put that into our cloud, so we lower that initial barrier to migration. I think the second thing that happens is, to the points that we were talking about, the realistic way to modernize an application, one that still has tons of value for your organization that you don't want to just rip out and replace, but you do want to extend. Skytap, with self-service resources that are on demand of those environments, so you take that traditional application, it's exactly like it is in your data center, now it's in Skytap Cloud, you can create copies of that as many times as you need, and now your development, your operations teams, your testing teams, your QA teams, they don't have to wait for each other to finish work, they can parallel process that, so you can start to make changes faster, you have more transparency, which leads to the collaboration that DevOps would entail,
Sure.
and you can start to actually think about, to our earlier point, okay, where do we want to take this application? What does this application need to do for our business 3, 5, 7 years down the road? Are we trying to eventually be all cloud native? And if so, what does this application need to do that? And so in some cases, certainly, you may see certain applications that would be an eventual fit for a hyperscale cloud, leave Skytap, but there's going to be a lot more applications coming in behind that. And I read a stat somewhere that said something like 90% of current legacy applications will still be running in 2022. I think Gartner said something along these lines. So there's so much out there that we haven't even scratched the surface of. I mean, Skytap's 225 people. We're doing well on the revenue front, but there's still much room for growth for us, and there's so much out there that we believe we can help, that in terms of a way station, we're going to be helping people modernize applications for years and years and years in our view, and there's tons of opportunity to do that. And certainly some of those applications, the end state eventually is off of Skytap, but we're also developing our cloud. You know, we're big users internally of Kubernetes.
Sure.
We've got ideas to bring more of that type of capability into Skytap Cloud. So over time, as we're helping our organizations, we're also growing. Okay. We're also extending our services, which will lead to them running more in production just in Skytap itself, as well as keeping applications there for the long term, because Skytap is actually a great fit for them.
Got it. I mean, I guess one way of looking at it is, look, as Skytap, you don't want to get too far out in front of your customers.
Exactly. We need to bring them along iteratively.
Right. When they're ready to move off of the, let's call it the way station, you'll develop the next stop on the way, right?
Yeah, it's iterative for us, just like it is for our customers. I mean, we're growing our cloud and adding the capabilities based on the business challenges of our customers. And the truth is that a lot of those organizations, they're not ready to just go production with Kubernetes, but they may want to try it out. And so we want to give them the ability to grow in a way that matches their business pace, not that is based on the newest, shiniest object.
Got it. Excellent. Excellent point. I think our audience now really can understand kind of...
And skytap.com if you want to learn more about it.
Okay, but I mean, but that's really the value prop right there, right? That's what you're paying the money for.
No doubt.
And look, I'm older than you, but you know, certainly
just a
for the
bit.
just this much. But in the rest of my working life, no one's moving totally to the cloud, and I'm going to guess in the rest of your working life
I mean,
as
I think...
well.
You know, I definitely believe long term, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line, the cloud makes a ton of sense for that to be the standard operating procedure. But there's so much waterfront to cover to get from where we are today to that cloud nirvana at the end of the day. And we see not only a huge opportunity for us, but real pain in customers trying to make progress and not trying to do it all up front, because you can't just stop running your business to get to the cloud. You've got to do them in parallel, which is a lot of work. And we want to lower the barrier to that effort and then allow them to grow over time.
Fair enough. And you know what? The whole DevOps mission is wrapped around that too.
No doubt.
Right? It's the same thing. Yeah, we want to change. We want dev to work closely with ops, and we want QA and testing automated, and we want to bring security in and do all of these things. But again, you know, you can't make wine before it's time. You've got to, the organization has to mature,
no doubt,
to even use that.
Exactly. And I think it was great when you started DevOps.com, and as you've looked at it, I think you and the outlet have done a great job of covering DevOps not as a bunch of tools that get strung together, but as more a philosophical and cultural approach to work. That, I mean, DevOps can apply to any group within an organization. Certainly it started with developers and operations, and it'll always have its heart there. but at least my belief is that as you look at how people collaborate to get work done, and really in an economy where I want to order something off my phone, that means that every business needs to be better at software than they used to be. And DevOps, the idea that developers and operations and almost every other unit of the business have ownership over how good that software is, how it runs, and when it gets delivered, and yes, and the functionality that it has, that's just good business practice for those teams to be collaborating outside of silos. And so Skytap definitely giving the resources, as I talked about earlier, eliminating the resource constraints. So now Dev Team A, Dev Team B, and QA Team C can all have the resources they need, means that now we're not waiting, so we can talk to each other in real time and start to collaborate on what the best solution to our challenge is.
It takes that restraint, right?
Removes
That's another restraint off the table to allow us to go, as fast as we want to.
No doubt.
And not necessarily as fast as we can, but as fast as we want to.
Yep.
Anyway, hey, Lucas, thanks for stopping by, man.
Alan, absolute
I appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure as always to see you. Lucas Welch, Skytap, here at IBM Think 2018. This is Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com, DevOps TV, and have a great day.